Díag witch. We're going to talk today about one of Ireland's most famous witches, and indeed the first witch on record, and that is Dame Alice Kyteler. She was born in Kilkenny at Samhain, the 31st of October, in either 1263 or 1280, so there is some debate over exactly when she was born. I tend to go with 1263 because that's what the Kyteler in Kilkenny, that's the date that they give. So we'll say Samhain 1263. So she was born into a wealthy Flemish family, a merchant family who had come and settled in Ireland. So she would have been very used to wealth and power and influence and, high society from day one. Her first husband was William Outlaw. I say first because there were a few. William Outlaw, and he was a moneylender and a landowner, and she had a son, also called William Outlaw, with him, and possibly a daughter, Rose. The information on Rose is sketchy, so whether she was a daughter or just somebody associated with Dame Alice, we're not 100% sure. But William Outlaw definitely went on to feature very strongly in her life and her career. He became her right-hand man. She moved on when William Sr. died. She moved on to another moneylender called Adam Blund. And there was some talk at the time about the suspicion that herself and Adam Blund had conspired to kill her first husband to take over his business. But the business boomed anyway, and Adam Blund met an untimely end as well. So she moved on to Richard Val, who was her third husband, who was a landowner from Tipperary, I believe. And he got sick and he died as well. So by the time she was on her fourth husband, John Poor, when he got ill, now he must have been a bit suspicious, he must have been. But when he got ill, he was concerned that he was being poisoned. And he was the one who actually started the stirrings with his children from a previous marriage. He started the stirrings about accusations of witchcraft and poisoning against Dame Alice. So this would have been 1323, 1324. So when he died in 1324, she was accused, officially accused, by his children. And I'm not sure if there was other people involved in the accusation, but definitely by his children. She was accused of witchcraft, and there was the Bishop of Ossory at the time was called Richard de Ledrede, and he was very, very into the idea of witches. And there was all sorts of stuff happening in Europe and in Rome and in the church and all the rest of it, which kind of fed into all this. But Richard, the Bishop of Ossory, was very, very, he needed a case to take on, and this seemed perfect. So it was very, very obvious to him that Dame Alice was guilty and that she was a filthy witch. So he formally accused her of witchcraft, and he took it to the authorities. Unfortunately for him, she was related to the authorities, and either through her original family or through her various marriages. And as I said, she held a lot of wealth and power in Kilkenny town. So between the hotting and the trotting, as my nana would say, the Bishop of Ossory actually ended up jailed at that point. And that caused a bit of a stink. But the officials of Kilkenny, the authorities, really felt that they couldn't do a lot with Dame Alice because she held too much power. He got out of jail, but he definitely had a bee in his bonnet at this point for Dame Alice, and he accused her and her entire coven, her entire retinue, of heresy, sacrifice to demons, consorting with demons. She was accused of having a familiar called Robin Artisan, who was like a lesser demon of Satan. She was accused of going against the church specifically, and something about excommunication, I believe. There was accusations of the group creating love and hate potions to stir up the community. There was accusations of murder and sacrifice, that people were being killed and chopped up to be fed to demons at crossroads. So all the kind of, I suppose, classic witchcraft, witch trial hysteria was present in this case. And it really went on back and forth for a very, very long time. Dame Alice went to England at one point and ended up in Dublin, and was pretty much protected in Dublin because of her connections and her power and her money. Unfortunately, the people who were associated with her, including her maid Petronella de Mead, were not so lucky. They did not have the same wealth and power and connections and status. So while Dame Alice escaped the hotbed that was Kilkenny and the Bishop of Ossory's accusations, Petronella did not, and she was tortured. I think it had been going on for like a couple of months at that point. We're still in 1324, and there'd been back and forth for a few months, and everything was kind of at a stalemate because Alice wasn't there. So they obviously escalated their search for evidence, and unfortunately poor Petronella got tortured, and a confession was wrought out of her. There is some discussion of the ergo poisoning that was going around Europe at the time, because Petronella's statement is very fantastical. Now, whether that was her own doing and she was having effectively an LSD type fantasy experiences that she was relating to the people under torture, or whether they planted the ideas in her head, of course we'll never know. But Petronella was tortured, confessed, absolutely put through the ringer, the poor woman, and was, in June of 1324, was burnt at the stake for the crimes of heresy and witchcraft. And she was the first person in Ireland to be burnt. And we didn't have many burnings, but she's the first one on record specifically for the crimes of heresy and witchcraft in 1324. So the whole case is a series of firsts, and there was obviously a lot going on at the time. Things were changing in Ireland. The political and social climate was difficult. There were things happening within the church. There was a new pope, or something about a test case for the Pope. So the Pope was involved, and the Bishop of Ossory was travelling to Rome, I know, at one point through the trial, and getting the advice and the support from Rome. But really what it came down to is a lot of people were jealous and ultimately bitter about Dame Alice Kyteler, including the Bishop of Ossory. All that being said, there are references to Alice and her son William Outlaw going out in the streets, at dawn before anybody else was up, and with a sweeping brush and sweeping with like a chant or a charm saying, basically all the wealth of Kilkenny town will come to my doorstep. So literally sweeping the wealth into her own household with her son. And some of the testimony around the trial would maybe lead you to believe that there was actual magical practice going on. Now, again, we'll never know. We'll never know for sure. But it is a very, very interesting case. And Petronella is one of the ancestors that I remember at Samhain every year. She obviously isn't as far as I know, isn't a blood relative. But she has been made a scapegoat, and she was put through the ringer for other people's issues and other people's problems. And that's something that I personally relate to. So I would ask that if you practice Irish paganism or Irish witchcraft or Irish magic or any kind of ancestor veneration or honour, that you would consider remembering Petronella de Mead, who died for the sins of others, or for the possibility of the sins of others, or for the biases or the prejudices of others, and honour her memory and respect her death. So, slán go fóill, and gur mágad for watching, and I will see you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, share the video, leave a comment below, engage with it so that YouTube know that you're interested in the content that I'm producing. And as I said, gur mágad. See you in the next video.